Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining us. For those who don't know me, my name is Chris Jardine, and today we are going to debunk 3 retirement myths you often hear thrown around in social circles or in the media. So, the first myth is that you need a certain dollar value to retire. $1 million is a common one that gets pushed out there. Ultimately, that is complete and utter drivel. Look, having $1 million or $2 million would almost certainly be nice, but in most cases, it's simply not true that you need that to retire. Your situation is almost certainly different to that of your next door neighbours, or your cousin who lives out of the country, or, Guy John from down the street there. So what you have to do is look at your lifestyle, where you want to live, how much you will get in government pensions, do you have an employer pension, do you have any other sources of income. I don't recommend this, as it's always good to have access to some funds in the case of an emergency, but if your pensions are big enough, you don't necessarily need any savings to retire. So, you might have zero in savings, the guy down the street might need $1 million or $500,000. It's completely different. And ultimately the number that you need depends on how much you're going to spend. If you're making decent money, you probably haven't budgeted in a number of years. But I always recommend that my clients put together a retirement budget. To do that, you need to get a handle on what you're spending just now. You can do this quite easily by looking at your bank and credit card statements. Figure out what expenses you have just now, and then look at what expenses will still be there when you retire. Perhaps the mortgage will be paid off. The kids might be on their own. Will you need 2 cars? Once you have that monthly number, then you can start to figure out what you need to save over and above your government pensions, employer pension if you have one, maybe some rental income, or any other sources of income that you may have. This way, you're getting a number that is unique to you, as opposed to arbitrarily stressing about getting to $1 million or $2 million for absolutely no reason. So keep that in mind. Everybody's different. The second myth we're going to talk about today is that you have to retire at 65. I think we all get too wrapped up in cultural norms sometimes and just go with certain things as it's generally accepted as what you're supposed to do. Again, I'm going to use the example of John down the street, but just because Johnny down the street is working until 65, you are under absolutely no obligation to work until 65 if you don't have to. Obviously, depending on your circumstances, you may have to work to 65 or even beyond in a lot of cases. That being said, however, if you understand what your monthly outgoings are going to be in retirement and have the sources of income to cover those outgoings, then I will actively encourage you to retire at whatever age that may be. Now, for some of you, if tomorrow was your last day on earth, you would probably still go to work, as that is what you enjoy doing. Fair play to you, but I can categorically guarantee that as much as I like you, I wouldn't be here if it was my last day on earth. And I'd be willing to bet that most of you would feel the same way. If that's your answer, then why would you treat retirement differently? Who knows what tomorrow has in store for us? Get out there and enjoy yourself. That's what life's all about at the end of the day. The third retirement myth we're going to cover today is that healthcare costs later in life are going to cripple you. Look, I don't want by any stretch of the imagination here to downplay the fact that healthcare costs can certainly add up the older you get. But the unfortunate, morbid reality of it is that if your healthcare costs are to the point where they're extremely high, then in the majority of cases, they're unlikely to be high for very long. Another factor to consider is I'd be fairly confident that most of you will want to travel to some extent during retirement. Chances are you're going to do more of this in the early years of retirement, whilst you're still physically able and travel insurance costs are not prohibitive. The chances of you travelling and running up large healthcare expenses at the same time are quite slim, so there's a balancing effect there. The last thing to consider is that if you're a homeowner, you do have the ability to tap into your home equity later in life to cover rising healthcare costs should you need to. That's it for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed the topics covered. If you've got any questions, just let me know in the comment section below. Also, if you do feel so inclined, we would appreciate you subscribing to the channel. We have some great content coming up over the next year that we want to get to as many Canadians as possible. Have yourself a great rest of the day, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.